everyone, I'm Lizard Girl, and this is the story of how I rescued Beedle. So I took Beedle in early September. I work at a vet clinic, and it was actually somebody brought him in. They said that they were looking for a new home for him, that he hadn't eaten in several months and he hadn't been able to open his eyes. I went into the room and I said, "Hey, I run a reptile rescue. I'd be more than happy to take him in." And he said, "That would be amazing." He said, "I just recognize that I don't have the ability to take care of him anymore," which I fully respect. I will never judge anyone for admitting that they can't care for their animal any longer. That's whenever we're able to help them. So he brought him in a little shoebox, and up to this point I hadn't even opened the box yet, but when I did open the box, I was shocked at what I saw. He was totally almost like a mummy, wrapped in all of his skin, just layers and layers of shed that he hadn't been able to remove. This is likely from a lack of humidity and lack of vitamin A. His eyes were totally like crusted shut, and his mouth, I could just tell from the look of it that he had severe mouth rot. And when my vet took a look at him, she felt like there wasn't a good chance that he would make it. But there was something that I noticed from the beginning about him, that he had a lot of fight in him. From the moment I opened it, he was still moving and trying to look around, and I was like, I think he can pull through. As soon as the owner signed him off to me, we rushed him to the back. We have a little incubator that we set up for him, and then I got a tub of warm water to get him to start soaking. I let him soak for about 15 minutes, and then we tried to start removing some of the skin. I was really careful to make sure I didn't remove any skin that was still stuck to his skin, because it can be very painful. But I'm talking, there was probably 5 layers. I used suture scissors to carefully cut, especially around his tail. The worst was around his toes. I didn't really even mess with that at first because I was afraid that some of the toes would fall off. We did take a look at his eyes, and it was clear that he had a lot of eye cap buildup, which is also a sign of vitamin A deficiency. We tried to remove it, but I decided that I was going to try to flush it and get it softer and tackle that later. We didn't want to do too much the first day because stress alone can kill a reptile in this condition. We let him soak a little bit longer, and we were able to remove more of the shed. And then I had my vet go ahead and take a look at his toes, and as I was trying to remove some shed from his toes, one of the toes just completely fell off. But it wasn't like I pulled it off, it was just already off and loose inside of there. Totally freaked me out. She ended up amputating some of the toes that we could, and then she felt that the rest would just naturally fall off. As soon as I got off work, I brought him straight home. Sam had our incubator up and running. Got a puppy pad laid down, we got him a hide, and then I just let him go in there and rest because I didn't want to do too much the first day. The second day, I offered him some wax worms because I thought maybe they would be soft and it would be easy for him to chew, but he was not interested at all. I think it was because he couldn't see. Leopard geckos are sight hunters, so they rely on sight a lot to eat. So that was going to make this very challenging to get him to eat. So I decided to go ahead and syringe feed him. I really like carnivore diet. It's something that I typically use for my rescues. So I mixed up some of the diet and I put it in a syringe. And then I just at first carefully dripped it in his mouth. I didn't want to do it too fast because they can aspirate. I also syringed him a few water droplets, and he drank that as well. At that point, I could tell that his mouth was very tender, and there was just a lot of scabbing and just a lot of layers of shed. After he ate, I let him sit for a few hours. I didn't want to overly stress him, but I felt like my next task was to focus on his eyes. So leopard geckos can get retained eye caps. It's often also from a lack of vitamin A or UVB deficiency. So from videos and things that I had watched, I saw it was best to try to soften up the eye caps. So I flushed his eyes with saline, and then I let that sit for a little bit, and then I came back and I felt, and when they were soft, I got some tweezers that had like a blunt, not very sharp tip, and I just started carefully trying to move the eye cap off.
Editing link here. If you don't want to see Beedle's eye caps being removed, skip ahead, you've been warned.
I was shocked with how much I pulled off. I ended up pulling out 3 separate chunks of stuff. As I was pulling it, I was really concerned because I wasn't seeing an eye underneath all of the debris. But nonetheless, I continued. I removed a lot of debris from both eyes, and then I flushed it again, flushed both eyes, and then I put some terramycin ointment in both eyes, and then I let him sit. And that was all that we did the second day, so I didn't want to overly stress him. The next day I noticed that the shed closest to his skin was really starting to come off, so we soaked him again, which Sam had a really good suggestion. He saw a video of somebody using some water beads instead of water, because I noticed my water kept getting really cold. I was like, we don't need that. So we rehydrated some water beads, and then I heated it over the stove just a little bit, and then I put him in there. He loved it. He didn't want to get out of there, and it actually really helped get most of the shed off. More toes fell off in the process. Most of the shed came off at that point. It was then that I decided that it was time to focus on his mouth. My vet had told me that I needed to remove a lot of the debris from his mouth for it to properly heal and to clean it with some Chlorohex. That way I could really disinfect it. I'm not going to show this part because it was kind of gross, but it came off really cleanly, no bleeding or anything. Sam thought that I was like ripping off a part of his mouth, but I was like, nope, trust the process, trust the process. When we removed it, he looked so much better. So after we removed the debris from his mouth, I decided to go ahead and flush his eyes again. And I was looking at his eyes and I was like, man, I still think that there's eye cap in there. And Sam agreed. And so I ended up getting my tweezers again, and I just gently started maneuvering it. And sure enough, there was eye cap left. And I just wiped it with a Q-tip. And all of a sudden I see a pupil dilate. And me and Sam both looked at each other like, oh my gosh, he has eyes.
Oh, he has eyes, you can see. I could cry. Hi, guy.
Then I started crying, of course, because I was just so excited. I checked the other eye, exact same thing. His eyelids were still really like stretched because he had so much eye cap, but he did have eyes, and occasionally he would really try to open them. This gave me so much hope, and I feel like this was the beginning of him really going up and up and up. Later that night, I syringe fed him, and he ended up having a lot of opinions. He got it in his mouth and he just shook it, and it got all over me, all over the cage. But I felt like that was a good sign because I was like, okay, he's feeling better. He's feeling sassy. It's a good thing. Then I thought, I wonder if I could offer him a mealworm if he would try, because that's what he had eaten his whole life, was just mealworms. So I gave him a mealworm. I put a mealworm in the incubator, and he was super interested. He kept trying to get it, but he kept missing, and the mealworm would run away. But I was like, okay, he's hungry. This is awesome. But I ended up, after like 30 minutes, I gave up, and I took the worm out because I didn't want it to chew on him or anything. But I was like, I'm going to try this again tomorrow. So the next day, I used tweezers, or maybe I used my fingers. I can't remember. But anyways, I offered him a mealworm, and he ate it. That was another big moment for me. I was so excited. I offered him another one. He ate that one. Offered another one. He ate that one. He was just all of a sudden like wanting to eat everything. I would walk in the room and he would lunge at me with his mouth, like just like biting the air, like, oh, there's the food lady. I was so excited. He was doing so much better. The last step I was really waiting for to move him from the incubator to a new home was his toes. His toes were still really red, and I could tell some of them were waiting to fall off. So I still continued to do soaks with like the water beads. I had some shed assist spray that I'd put on them, and I just kind of waited for them to fall out. I did notice he seemed to be getting really antsy in the incubator. He loved to explore and climb and run around. I was like, okay, I'm ready to move him out. But when his last toe, which sounds really funny, when his last toe fell off, I was like, okay, we're good. Which the whole time as his toes were falling off, I treated it also with terramycin to help make sure it didn't get infected. But they all actually fell off really cleanly. But he ended up losing every single toe. So he basically just has little like nubs. It's really cute, honestly. I ended up having a 75-gallon tank that the Norman Animal Shelter gave me, and I was like, you know what? He lived his whole life, his owner said, in like a 10 to 20-gallon tank, and I was like, this guy deserves a mansion. So I set up the 75-gallon tank for him, and I normally try to move reptiles in slowly because it can be a little bit overwhelming, but I was like, you know what, I think this guy is ready. So I put him in, and sure enough, he just started running around, climbing. His little feet didn't stop him from exploring everywhere. He was just so excited. Now, about 4 months later, he is doing so good. He's gaining weight, he's eating great, he's still running around like crazy. We haven't had any shedding issues. He's had several sheds where it's just come off super cleanly, and I just couldn't be happier. I love him so much. You know, I normally try to rescue and rehome, but Beedle is my baby, for sure. We're still working on trying to get him to gain weight. I'm trying to do it gradually because I don't want to overfeed him since he hadn't eaten in so long. But he would eat me out of house and home if I would let him. He would eat every mealworm that we have. About a month ago, I started seeing videos of like hemipene plug removals, and I got to thinking, I was like, I wonder, Beedle had so many issues, I wonder if he had a hemipene plug. And sure enough, he did. Beedle, he's so talented, he had to have all of the issues. So I was able to remove it gently myself. I did the same thing. I kind of flushed the area, let it get soft. But I recommend if you have a leopard gecko that has ICAP issues or plugged hemipenes, don't try to remove it at home. I definitely recommend taking them to a clinic, especially with the hemipenes. It can be very painful, and some leopard geckos need to be sedated, and that was a concern I had the whole time working with Beedles, that he might drop his tail, and whenever they are in a condition like he was, dropping his tail could be deadly. But I was so amazed at Beedle the whole time. He was just so good. He definitely had opinions, but he didn't hiss, he didn't try to bite, and he never attempted to drop his tail or anything. It was almost like he knew that we were trying to help him. He's just one of the most amazing leopard geckos I've ever had or worked with. But yeah, Beedle's doing great to this day. I feel so grateful to God. I feel like it was a God thing that I was able to work with him, and I feel like God has allowed me the opportunity to work with such amazing creatures. And I just want to say thank you for watching my videos. Whenever you watch and you like and you subscribe, you're helping me work towards building my own rescue. My dream would be to get to work with my rescue full time and help animals just like Beedle. So thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned. I plan to make a video about a bearded dragon that I rescued not too long ago that was found outside as a stray. It's a very interesting story, so stay tuned. Thanks.